In this video, I would like to talk to you about non-fiction writing and how to make sure that you develop your ideas and opinions in enough detail in order to establish credibility. And what I mean by that is why people should listen to you. The danger, of course, is when we give very short answers or we don't elaborate on why we have the views that we do, we're not taken seriously, and your writing and your views can often be dismissed because the audience has made a decision that you're not really confident what you're saying, and therefore you shouldn't really be taken as seriously. So what you want to do is you want to make yourself sound like an expert when you're writing a piece of non-fiction in which you are expressing a viewpoint. So regardless of what exam board you use for GCSE English Language, there will be an element where you have to be able to give a viewpoint. For AQA, because that's the exam board that I teach, paper 2, for example, is called Writers' Viewpoints and Perspectives. For this task, for this writing task, you are the writer. The spotlight is on you. So you're writing about your opinion, about the topic that they give you. So this is about your viewpoint and your perspective. And the more detailed that you can do that, the more marks you will get, because you will be establishing credibility. People will listen to you. Okay, so there are four main ways that you could use to develop your responses, to develop your opinions, and how to convey your opinions to others. The first is to use your own experiences and memories, or to refer to the experiences of others. But you can also, if you lack real examples, then you can also make them up, because the examiner isn't going to know what's real and what isn't. So there is a degree of creativity even with a non-fiction writing task. So those three examples there are kind of anecdotal. They are rooted in what's supposed to be the real, the everyday. A fourth thing that you can do in order to develop your opinions in your writing is to make sure you state the counter-argument. So what somebody might say who disagrees with you, and then you would then kind of disagree with that in your answer and give the impression that you're basically saying that's what they would say, but they're wrong because. And that can be quite a persuasive, quite an argumentative thing to do when you are being asked to give your own viewpoint. So when I teach this question, I often find myself using strategies to give my students opportunities to develop their response. So I would often use, for example, this development grid, as I call it, which is very simply, for each paragraph, getting students to split their paragraph into 6 sections, which they would then merge together at the end. The focus being, of course, on 4 elements of development that you can see there, making sure that we are avoiding simplistic answers and really trying to expand and elaborate on why students have the viewpoint that they do. Because with this task, you need to think something. It's not good enough to say, I don't know. You have to have a view, otherwise you're not going to do well in this question. Okay, so for this video, I'm going to be just using this question, all about education, and what makes a good education. Whether education is all about exams and assessments and qualifications, or whether there are other things that a good education system should do in order to make sure that students benefit from it. And as is often the case, the task will be worded as a quotation, and it will then give you an instruction in terms of what type of text you are writing for, and encouraging you to give your view on the issue that is given. So let's start to go through this development grid and start to think about what you could say in each level in order to expand and elaborate on what you think in order to establish a higher degree of credibility. So you could start your paragraph by making reference to a counter-argument, or you could make reference to the topic itself. So I've said here, some people believe that the education system's main function is to get students to sit long, anxious and stressful exams in order to gain qualifications. Got a list of 3 there. This has meant that schools and colleges have often been labelled as exam factories, where students are constantly preparing for assessments and examinations. We go on to the next level. The place now is to use a connective when you're switching to your view. However, this view does not take into account how a decent and effective education is supposed to be about so much more. For example, helping students see the world and making memories that will be cherished forever. And now we have to come up with 4 things to say to develop that. So firstly, thousands of students every year go on school trips in order to take their learning out of the classroom and see the real world, because this is viewed as incredibly beneficial. I have enjoyed many trips over the years to a variety of different destinations, going skiing in Austria, visiting art galleries in Venice, and seeing the magnificent architecture of Barcelona. All of this was done as part of my education, and I am so happy that I managed to have these experiences. Moreover, my friends also greatly benefited from these excursions, both educationally and mentally, from leaving school for a week in order to learn in a different culture and place. Learning did take place. Shortening a sentence there for impact. For example, we learned about the buildings and heritage of Barcelona while going on a tour as part of our history course. In fact, I learned more being there than I would have done from merely looking at a textbook or PowerPoint presentation in a classroom. And we finish off. Do you believe that good education is all about students being sat at desks for 6 hours a day to prepare them for an exam? It's outrageous that people think that learning is just about exams, which, according to recent statistics, cause young people increased stress and anxiety at a time when the young are already facing a mental health epidemic. So you can hopefully see here that going through each layer of this development grid has helped me kind of expand on what I think, and has given me more credibility in the process. Students really do need to develop their ideas here, because if they don't, they're not going to do as well in the exam. Okay, so finally, what we would do is we would put all of this together, and we would have a paragraph. And you can see just by the length of that paragraph, that's a very decent amount of writing in which you are discussing your view. This is all about your opinion, remember. Okay, so you're making reference to I, to yourself. There's lots of anecdotes in here, lots of places, lots of examples as well. And, they could be fake, they could be real. It doesn't matter though, because it serves the purpose. After reading this, we get the sense that this student knows exactly what they think, and they're confident enough in telling us what they think. And they're using some of the language techniques like list of threes, rhetorical questions, direct address, in order to convey those opinions as well. Okay, so please remember that when you are writing non-fiction and it's to do with your perspective or your viewpoint on something, that you need to make sure that you elaborate, and using something like the development grid might help you in order to do so. The more detail you can give, the more credibility you will have, and the more marks you will get. Okay, so hopefully that has been helpful.